Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Terri Conrad with Bloom True, and this is Mindful Mondays. Each week we paint an abstract watercolor painting, and today we're going to do this fabulous, really abstract and even a little grungy abstract painting simply with circles and squares and mark making. We're going to allow these fall colors to blend and bloom together. And this is the inspiration piece to give you a sense of what we're aiming for. I have my watercolor pad. This particular pad is a 9x6. You can use any watercolor paper you have though. We are going to be using a flat brush, a round brush, and a ruling pen. And I find these ruling pens really fun to work with and mark make. Here is our color palette. It is my fall color palette, and it's a mixture of brands. And as always, use what you have. You do not need to go out and purchase the exact colors that I have. We've got dragon's blood, we've got a pretty olive green, we have quinacridone gold, we've got a Payne's gray, a Potter's pink, and Venetian red. Just a whole variety of colors. I even have some burnt umber in here. And we'll be mixing these colors a little bit too, just to get the fullness of the autumn feel. And I have some black ink. This happens to be acrylic ink, and we'll be using that with our ruling pen to do some mark making once our watercolor painting is completely dry. Again, these ruling pens are a lot of fun to work with, mark make, write with, all kinds of different things, and they're not very costly at all. And I've got this gold ink. I put it in a fine line bottle. When you take that cap off, it has a really, really fine tip on it to allow you to do line work. Let's activate our pigments by spritzing them with water. And let's take another look at our inspiration piece. And this is just to give your mind a sense of where we're going on this painting journey today. And remember, use your intuition, trust your intuition. You do not need to paint exactly like the inspiration piece. I'm just going to begin dipping my brush in color and laying it down on the paper. I'm starting with this blue, and I'm going to lay that down on the paper in a circle, and it's a little transparent, so I'm going to come in and add more color, more saturation. And you'll see how I use just the tip of my brush to drop in more color. And as you go about your painting today, I want you to remember that you can lay down one color, and before you even rinse out your brush, come in with another color and just drop it in with the tip of your brush, and that will bring some very interesting movement in the shape that you paint. Now here you see that I'm using some purple, and it's feeling just a touch bright for me. I want it to be a little more muted than this bright purple. And so I'm adding just a touch of blue, and then I'm going to dip my brush into some brown, just the tip of the brush, and touch that to the still wet square. Now, as we do every week, I'm going to go ahead and be quiet and play some soothing music and let you follow along with me as we paint together. And I'll pop in periodically and definitely before we close up the session. Thanks and enjoy. It's fun playing and exploring and moving the color around, isn't it? I hope you're feeling relaxed and enjoying your process. At this point, what I'm doing is just adding touches of color to the edges of my paper and in between the squares and circles. And as you can see on the inspiration piece, that these colors then begin to just flow and blend into one another rather organically. And it makes for a really unique, one of a kind finished piece, because each time you return to this practice, it's going to come out differently. Now we need to let this dry completely before we move on to the next step. I'm taking a dryer to my painting, which is something I usually do just to expedite the process. And then we'll reconnect and begin our mark making. Here we go. And I'm actually going to tear this off because I want a very flat surface while I'm adding my marks to the page. So as you can see, as I hold this up closer, first we've got a gorgeous color palette that we're working with. And then you can see where we've dropped in color on top of wet color, how it's bloomed and blended and the way that it's dried. There's just really pretty texture throughout this. So I am going to grab a Posca pen. I have an ivory Posca pen, and it's number 46, 5mm. And I'm just going to come in and start making some dots. Very random. Okay. And now I think oh, you know what? I wanted to come in with some pencil marks and write some kind of a little message right there. I like using a mechanical pencil, and so I'm going to do that. I think I'll do it across right here. I tend to write in a form of asemic writing. And there are all kinds of videos here on YouTube about asemic writing and how to do it. And if you're curious, I encourage you to look one of those up. It's ASEMIC, asemic writing. But it's just a very loose form of mark making. And so I'm going to give you a prompt. Notice your body. Notice where you may be holding some tension right now. Breathe and try to release the tension. Your prompt is, how does engaging in this painting process, this painting experience, how does it make you feel? And then just write something about that. And I am going to use the asemic writing format to do that. it's just a very loose mark making, really. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside. And I've got two bottles here. One is nearly empty. So we're gonna move into the mark making. And I'm gonna use the tip here and just make some dots. You don't want to squeeze the bulb right here because that's going to make all the ink flow out of the dropper. My ruling pen. So I've got that. And let's see if I can pick up any ink from this bottle. And now what we're gonna do is just make some random scratch marks. I might, well, there you go, there's a little blob of ink. I'm gonna come through and maybe circle, outline a square. And I'm just making scratch marks. Using the side of the ruling pen and the point. And this is where you need to trust your intuition and let that inner child come out and play and just make marks. Oh my gosh. And how funny. Oh wow. Okay, so I've had this happen on another ruling pen. The little piece came out and it flicked off and flew into my watercolor. Oh my gosh. And what this does, this little pin, is when you unscrew it a little bit, it allows for the pen part to spread apart. So it starts out really tight. And if you unscrew it a little, these two fingers come apart a little, and that's where the inkwell is. Okay, let's see what else I want to do. It fell into a relatively empty pot of, it's mostly water, so I can wipe that out. Matter of fact, this is acrylic ink. I am going to take a quick minute here because I don't want it to stain that well. Okay, good as gold. All right, back to our painting. Are there any other marks I want to make? I'm going to use my non-dominant hand. Like that. If you want to get in touch with that inner critic and help quiet that voice, allow yourself some playtime with your non-dominant hand and just see what happens. We can't expect much when we're using our non-dominant hand, and it's hard to be critical of what we've created when we use our non-dominant hand. So go for it. Okay, All right, I think we are just about finished with this project. Thank you for being here. I hope you've had a time to quiet your thoughts, quiet your mind, relax, and release any stress that you've been carrying in your body. And most of all, I hope that you've enjoyed this painting process, painting along with me. If this is your vibe and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Visit us on Instagram at bloom_true. Follow us there and share your painting. We'll share it in our stories for others to see. And if you haven't been to our website yet, check it out. We're at bloom-true.com. All kinds of goodness available there, including a free watercolor art print and iPhone wallpaper for you to enjoy. Thanks again for being here, and until we meet again, be well.